Hey, welcome everyone to VikeFest, podcast for us Viking fans. I have in the house today Film Study 21, a Raven fan from, I would say, Baltimore.
I'm from the Baltimore area, yes.
Baltimore. Joining us, he's going to help us kind of get an understanding of what we have with our new free agency pickup, Michael Pierce, and kick that idea around and then get to know film study a little bit. Let me ask you this very first question: how are you doing after that tough loss in the playoffs against the Titan?
Yeah,
Titan.
it was fairly awful. Maybe the second worst loss ever after the 2006 13-3 season. They lost a game to the Colts that was just horrible. But this is probably the second worst loss in franchise history.
Yeah. How did you take it personally? What did you? How did you cope?
You know, the way I always find to cope is analyze. So I go directly into the stuff, and I've got responsibilities after the game in terms of looking through, recording the defense and offensive line scoring and whatnot that keep me looking at this more times. You become a little bit more measured as you analyze it a little bit more, and you realize why it happened. And at least you're not searching for questions or trying to avoid news or anything like that.
Okay, perfect. Give me your spiel again. You do podcasts or you do film study. Tell our viewers what you do again.
All right. So my name is Ken McCusick. I'm a fan of the Baltimore Ravens. I'm known as Film Study Ravens on Twitter if you want to add me. And certainly there's a good film discussion with analysts around the league on that channel. My website is filmstudybaltimore.com. Lots of stuff out there about the Ravens, including a video I did recently about the Ravens defense, which really gets in pretty deep into the individual pattern and whatnot. So that's where you can find my work.
Okay, perfect. How's your team looking for this year once we get up and running?
I'm fairly happy with where they are right now. There'll be obviously some influx of talent as needed in the draft, and one of the places is on the defensive line with the loss of Pierce.
Okay. So we are going to talk about Michael Pierce. We picked him up in free agency. I think it was like a 3-year deal, $9 million a year. Was that a good buy for us?
I think so. If the Ravens had known that they could have him for that, and they had known that Michael Brocker's physical was not going to work out, they'd have just re-signed Pierce. I think that'd been the easier thing to do. Pierce is one of the best run defenders in the game. He had a little bit of an off year this last year, but has been astounding the previous 2 years. Tremendous physical presence, nicknamed the Juggernaut here by his teammates, which is good, not as opposed to by the fans. So you're going to love him, I think. I've seen really good leadership qualities out of some unpleasantness that happened around the locker room and on Twitter that he really stepped up on. So I think you're going to like him in a lot of ways.
Okay. Why didn't the Ravens try to keep him? Was it just strictly finances or?
You know, there's a couple of things going on here, and one of them was financial. That hey, it's a big money cornerstone deal, and the Ravens are in a position where they have a good amount of cap space, but they also need to plan to move a lot of cap from defense to offense. So they made some shorter term defensive deals, and some you have to prepare to get Stanley signed, get Marlon Humphrey signed on the defense, and then I'll get Lamar Jackson signed potentially as early as a year from now. So that's going to be a monster deal, and they have to have cash available. So they're not looking to sign a bunch of 4-year deals right now, or even 3s. They're really trying to get 1- and 2-year deals, and that's what they have with Campbell and with Wolf, for example.
Okay, all right. So what? I posted a workout video with Michael Pierce, and he's a very strong guy. And for a 350-pound guy, he can jump like a gazelle, for Christ's sakes. But what are some of the liabilities with Michael that we have to look for?
Uh, he, he's never really made a huge impact as a pass rusher. I think he's done some things. What the Ravens have asked him to do is not really very much. He's really more of a controlled rush lane pass rusher. When he's been in on third down in something I call the race car package here, where they use 4 outside linebackers and 1 defensive tackle, nose tackle playing over the nose, and that was some Brandon Williams and it was some him this last year. So that'll be interesting to see how the Vikings use him in their scheme, which is obviously very different. The Vikings probably much more commonly rush for and don't have the kind of complicated schematic blitzes that the Ravens have. At least I don't think so.
Okay. Now, I don't know if it's me or you, but I lost your video feed with Skype. Um, I can
I'll
certainly.
fix that. We good?
Yeah, there we go. Okay, there you go. Um, so yeah, okay. Are we getting someone that's going to help us win the Super Bowl this year? Would you say? Are we? What do you think?
If you were just short a run stopper to win the Super Bowl, then you're in good shape because he's one of the best in the game. He's simply outstanding in that regard. He doesn't impact high leverage plays the way some other people do. So, just look at the downs he played. He played about 50% of the snaps overall, but he played more than half on first down, almost exactly half on second down, and less than half by a substantial amount on third down. So you're getting an early down guy, not a high leverage down guy. And he's very helpful in terms of his ability to get in the backfield, to disrupt, to create those second and long, third and long situations, but then usually he's not in the game for them when they come up.
Okay. I was watching. I think it was a playoff game from last year, and it was. I was watching the fourth quarter, and this was right after we picked him up. So I was watching him playing, and he seemed to get kind of tired in the fourth quarter. Does that happen a lot with him? Is that something we should worry about?
I have not. I mean, the Ravens use a very rotational scheme, more than just about anybody in the whole NFL. So the Vikings, if they're going to use him on 75% of snaps, then that's going to be a new level for Pierce. Because last year, for example, he played 50% of the snaps, and I think that might be the highest. Maybe he was at 54% the year before. Looking at that Tennessee game and how his snaps were divided out for the game, let's just take a moment here because this is worth doing, I think. Pierce was on the field a lot in the second half, so it wouldn't be too surprising. He missed only 8 snaps the whole second half. So it's, could he have become tired? Sure, it's possible. Quarter 4, he played all but one of the plays. It's not something I've noticed regularly with him. I mean, he's very rarely gets moved. He's even effective at not being moved by double teams. And one thing you'll really get to love about him is it seems like one time per game he can summon up a special amount of strength and opportunity or whatever it is and push somebody 2 yards into the backfield seemingly whenever he wants. And it's often on a 4th and 1 play. So you get that nice value.
Yeah, I was again. I was watching his workout videos. I guess that when he was in college, he squatted 725, which
Wow.
that's up there. You know what I mean? Do you follow the other players? Like, can you compare him to our past nose tackle Joseph Lindvall? Joseph, is he comparable? A little bit better? Not as good? I know that Lindvall was had experience, but can you compare the two at all?
I don't follow the NFC as closely, so I'm not going to be as good at that, and I would, prefer probably not to just make that kind of a judgment. But he is for sure one of the best run defenders in the entire NFL. You won't be disappointed, I don't think, in that side. You asked me a question earlier about why did the Ravens give up on him, when they had such a nice player on their hands. But one of the things was he showed up for mini camps last year about 40 pounds overweight.
Okay.
And Harbaugh is known for having a fairly large doghouse. So if he showed up at, I don't know, it might have been 375 or something he showed up at, so I might be exaggerating slightly the amount of overweight, but he's noticeably huge. And he came back for camp. Everything appeared to be fine. Had a little bit less productive year than he'd had the previous 2. And the questions came up. He still played 50% of the snaps. The Ravens' run defense was not as good, but it was more a problem of other things. The edge setting was terrible, and the inside linebackers were not the strength of the team, particularly for the first 4 weeks. So Pierce has made a contribution to one of the top defenses in the entire NFL for his entire career. So I think that's the best argument I can give you for you really have a fine player on your hands. I'm very sorry to see him go. That's the other thing I can tell you.
Okay, all right. Him coming in 40 pounds overweight, does that mean off season he tends to not work out as much and discipline goes out the window and he needs someone on top of him to keep him disciplined? Is that fair to say?
I can't really speak to that. It happened one time. It's not like it happened,
Oh,
every year of his career or
okay.
anything.
Okay.
There's certain boxers who are known for that, always, starting their training regimen way over rate. But I've never really known that to be the case with Pierce. It was this year, and it was Harbaugh was not happy about it, and oftentimes a player will be in the doghouse for a long time with John Harbaugh.
Got it. I lost your feed again, your video feed.
Okay,
There you go. Yeah.
that's going to happen from time to time, but all I have to do is click camera on, camera off. So if you don't want to edit or whatever, just give me a thumbs up or a wave sign or something, and I'll just fix it immediately.
Yeah. So you're back. All right, I think now we know what we kind of have, and he's 27, which is the prime of your career as a ball player. Whether it's
Hmm.
baseball, football, doesn't get any better than 27. That's where he's at. So I'm hoping he's going to come in and give us what we need, and I can visualize the Vikings and the Ravens in the Super Bowl in 2021. What do you think?
Would love it. We can sign that. We can sign that deal right now. And by the way, Dan, I love the fact that you're in tune with this, and you probably have a baseball background. I'm guessing from this about 27 being the peak age. Might even be earlier in football, but you still get these people on Twitter, and I don't try and convince the masses that's 28 to 32, and that's like literally 1950s thinking on the matter.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I read that somewhere, or that 27 is when athletes peak physically, and
mhm.
physically, maybe not mentally, but physically, that's when they're the strongest, most endurance, the whole 9 yards. So that's always been a number in my head for that. But look, hey, good luck this year. You guys looked unbelievably. I thought you guys were going to go all the way, and I was as shocked as anyone when the Titans came in and just kind of took it from you. But maybe that's what you needed to get you to a string of years where you go into the postseason number one year in and year out. So let's hope for that, right?
Well, I don't think there's any way to make lemonade out of that lemon of a last game. But yeah, hopefully, this is the start of big things for the Ravens. I think that the torch has passed in the AFC at least. Although the Chiefs now have a claim to it too, in terms of who's the number one franchise. I don't think it's the Patriots anymore. I really do think it's the Ravens. The Chiefs have a hot quarterback as well, and they have a good coach. The Ravens, I think, have the better coordinators, which is really an exciting part of it. So I'm excited about what the Ravens are doing, and love to see it be the Ravens and Vikings.
Yeah, me too. You got to count Pittsburgh Steelers in there too. They have Roethlisberger coming back. That makes a huge difference. But it's good to see that Brady is not a Patriot anymore, because for 20 years we've been seeing the Patriots in the Super Bowl or near it or close to it, and I'm tired of it. So
Yep,
hopefully that's over.
we
Uh,
all are.
and you guys have great colors with the purple. So I think a Viking Ravens Super Bowl purple fest, if you will, would be awesome. So thank you for coming on and giving us an insight on Michael Pierce. Anything else you want to say before we?
No, I think we're good. Thanks for joining. At Film Study Ravens on Twitter and FilmStudyBaltimore.com if you want to take a look at my work.
I will, and let's look forward to a great season, and hope you stay safe with what's going on in this crazy world right now. Nothing's no Masters, no. There's nothing to watch. There's nothing to follow right now. It's weird, so weird. So, but we'll get through it. And thanks again, and have a great day.
Take it easy, Dan.
Hey, bye.